Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from the Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 71, emergency episode. This is the first emergency episode I've ever done. For the viewers out there, was not supposed to be one of these NBA episodes until after the Super Bowl, but there has been so much going on that how can we not talk about the NBA? Tyson Oscar Rubin has so kindly agreed to join me today to talk about basketball. Boys, how are we doing?
Very well.
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Doing well.
Listen, just before we got on the air, there was another blockbuster trade which featured DeAaron Fox and Zach LaVine. We're going to get into that one later. But to start off with, we are going to begin with the biggest trade in NBA history. Luka Doncic, yes, I'll say that again, Luka Doncic to the Lakers for AD and a couple of other pieces. Now, the full trade, I will go ahead and say it right now before I get your reaction. So the Lakers received Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris. The Mavericks received Anthony Davis, Max Christie, a 2029 Lakers first-round pick. The Jazz, to facilitate the trade, get Jalen Hood-Schifino, 2025 Clippers second-round pick, and 2025 Mavericks second-round pick. For the viewers out there, I was with Tyson and Oscar yesterday. We were absolutely shocked. We thought the Shams account got hacked. We could not believe it had happened. Ruben, your initial reaction to the trade and then your thoughts. What is going on here?
Well, I came back from work and I thought the account was hacked as well. Before I say my reaction to the trade, this is not to discredit Anthony Davis in any way. He's a very talented player. But when you look at the overall trade, people forget last season, the Mavericks made the finals. So for this to be successful, they have to win. This is a must win. Anthony Davis is performing really well. He's had his health concerns. He stayed healthy. This is a 2 to 3 window. Whereas the Lakers, this could be for another 10 years if Luka Doncic continues at the performance that he has. So for me, this is a Lakers W unless if Mavericks can somehow win the chip.
Yeah, well, I think that I don't know if you guys saw it, this trade can be summed up by, it was Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd's interview with the press. Jason Kidd looked in shambles.
He didn't say a word. He didn't say a word.
He was fuming. So as Ruben said, it's a win now, and obviously the Mavericks think there's some health concerns with Luka, but you've traded for AD, who's known for his health concerns. He has a nickname about his health concerns, and it's, as Ruben said, they need a win this year, next year, or probably the year after. Otherwise, this is just that they've lost this trade. They've lost the trade against Atlanta in 2018. So if they don't win in the next 3 years, the Mavericks are back to fully rebuilding, in my opinion, because no one's going to trade for their aging stars. They're going to have to pay them a bunch of money as well. And I just don't think, I think that they've shortened their time limit. They've traded away their franchise player and shortened their time limit extraordinarily. So I just think the Lakers have pulled off something spectacular. As the Lakers, we were wrong about the Lakers if they can still do that these days, but obviously they can. And Rob Pelinka's, hasn't done much for the past 3 years, but he's cooked. They're back to being cooked. They're back to cooking. So I don't know, Tyson, what do you think?
Well, as soon as you get the notification, you get two of the biggest names in the league. You don't see that often. Oh, sorry, you probably haven't seen it ever. You got perennial superstar, really young guy, one of the best players the NBA has seen. Again, gone for another person, another superstar, perennial superstar. Yeah, Anthony Davis. You don't see this often, and it's really just shocking to see, like, the loyalty nowadays. Loyalty is, the NBA is turning into just such a crazy business, and I don't know what Nico Harrison was really thinking, to be honest, saying they want to be in a win now situation, considering he just went to the finals last year. And look, it's just shell shock, speechless. Like, obviously, you're not going to say no to Luka Doncic coming to your team. But
no.
Yeah, you're not going to say no at all. But I guess just from a fan perspective, just seeing, one of your fan favorites, someone who's sacrificed a lot for your team, get shipped away, it's hard to it's a hard pill to swallow, but you're still getting a 25-year-old superstar in return.
The other shocking thing was just like how there was zero murmurs about it before. Usually you hear agents talking
Well, you heard Nico said that in the interview, how him and Rob had to keep it under wraps.
It's like they just had a phone call, an hour phone call, and made it happen. So it's like there was no thinking about it. There was no like
they went to go coffee a few times. He said, and he laid the news on Rob, and Rob thought he was joking at first.
Doncic didn't even want out.
No,
it was the Mavs.
It seems that both players are shocked, is what it seems.
Well, did you see Doncic's message? It was a beautiful message to the Mavericks fans, and he looked like he wanted to be there for life as well. So it's just it's a full front office trade. There has been no player interaction that has kind of made this happen.
There's obviously been some sort of rift because you see how Dirk was treated by the Mavericks organization. He was there for his whole career. One of the best stories in NBA history in terms of nowadays. We very rarely see players stay with the team for their whole career, especially this day and age. And everyone thought that Doncic was heading towards that trajectory. You know, he was early favourite for the MVP this year before he got hurt. They just went to the finals last year. And this is the thing I don't understand. Like, Luka Doncic just don't grow on trees. Okay, you're not going to go to Slovenia and just go to some random basketball court and see another Luka Doncic. Okay, that's just not happening. And even with the teams before they went to the finals, they were still in like championship contention every single year as long as Doncic is there. Like in the NFL, we talk about the Super Bowl window being dependent on the quarterback. And as long as you have a good quarterback, your Super Bowl window is practically always open. With Luka Doncic as your best player, your championship window is practically always open because he is just that good. And I think the Mavericks are forgetting how they got to the finals last year. Kyrie played great, but Luka Doncic was absolutely unbelievable. He went and dropped 20 points in a quarter. Game 3 against Minnesota, which ultimately propelled them to the NBA Finals, winning that series. And now you're just going to go give him away for someone who is injury prone, who is also older, and someone who is flat out just not as good and never will be as good. Like Doncic is a generational talent. And even from a marketing perspective as well, if you want to look at it, that from your franchise, he has so much like gravitational pull during the league. And now don't even know what's going to happen. Now we're going to see like the king, groom the prince who's going to end up being the king. And as a Clippers fan, this is a disaster for me because I was thinking, oh my God, LeBron's going to be gone in maybe 2 or 3 years. Maybe we can get some ground. But now with Doncic
you didn't like
being
the PJ, you didn't like the PJ Tucker trade? You didn't.
Look, that was a sneaky little trade, but not to the proportions of this trade. Okay, but seriously, I don't understand what the Mavericks are doing. Now, next question I want to ask. I'm looking at this roster now. Starting 5, Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Daniel Gafford, and AD is the projected starting lineup. Oscar, can this team win a championship this year or in the next 2 to 3 years, which is what we're predicting for this type of trade they need to do?
Okay, in my opinion, I think this still is a championship team. They have very, very good players still. You say what you want about aging. This year, next year, they're going to be a very, very good championship contender if everybody stays healthy. That's a very big point. However, it is already unbelievably difficult to win a championship. And then you've got this pretty good team that I think is now worse, but you've got this good team. You saw how difficult it was with the best player in the league on your team. And now you've traded him away. You've got Anthony Davis. It's still a good team, but I just can't see them in the next 3 years. I can't really see them making the finals. I think they're going to...
And Kyrie and Clay are also injury-prone themselves, FYI. Does that play into it for you, Oscar?
Tyson goes to me yesterday, after a few beers, he goes to me, he was looking through some memes, he was like, there's 3 guys who has one good knee between them.
That's true.
They've got one good knee to share.
They've got one good knee between them. But I think it's already extremely difficult to win a championship, as they found out last year. And now they've traded away the guy that got you there. I can't see them getting back to that position. They might make the finals, but I can't see them you have to be better than you were last year, and I don't think they are. I don't think they are. So I don't see them winning a championship.
Yeah.
Look, I think they could, but like Oscar said, the West is super competitive. But look, it might not be the best trade for the Mavericks, but I actually think it's a good trade for AD. I don't know if you saw the interview with Shams. He said AD still believes that he works the best when he's at the four. And the Lakers didn't have the center, and now the Mavericks have got two centers in Lively and Gafford that they'd be able to work off each other well. So AD, the fit fits well with the Mavericks, but it's such a short time span and it's so competitive. So it's going to be hard. Whether it's going to be enough to get over the line, I don't think it is, but they've still got a good chance.
Yeah, look, like the Mavericks obviously gone all in. They've got rid of a 10-year window of being borderline contenders to go all in for maybe 2 to 3 year max window where they have to like get the chip regardless. Because Kyrie, 2 to 3 years, he'll be what, 34, 35, 80, probably older, no? 80 will be pushing 35 soon. And we know how elite big men are once they go past 35. They're not the same. And considering AD's only played 70 games plus 3 times in his career, I don't see it happening, more frequently going down towards the end of his career. So they've put themselves in a very, very exclusive win now bracket. But like you guys said, the West is unbelievably stacked. And when you have the young teams leading like the Thunder, their average age is like 20, 23 or something, like 24, something ridiculously young. And it's just, I don't really see, I can see why, but I don't see why at the same time the Mavs have put themselves in this position.
The scary thing for the Mavs, if they do not win in the next 3-4 years, if AD retires a Maverick without a championship, if Kyrie retires a Maverick without a championship, this could end up being one of the worst trades in a very long. I'm not gonna say in history because there's been some horrible ones, but one of the worst trades in NBA history for the Mavericks, because if they don't win and these guys retire as a Maverick, they've got nothing. They literally have nothing, the Mavericks, and they're not going to have good picks in the next couple of years because they're going to be good, but I just can't see them. They have to win. It's a scary spot being a Mavericks fan right now.
It's like the difference between the GMs though. Like Mark Cuban said, he'd rather get a divorce before giving away Luka. And now you got Nico Harrison just throwing the idea away like to other people who think it's a joke, and they go through with it within a heartbeat because it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I just still don't know what Dallas are doing, but I could understand it more if maybe it was like a Paul George type situation where at least if it doesn't work out and you don't win a championship, even if the picks aren't good, you still have them. Like you at least still have something that you can use going forward. But here, Dallas have left themselves in a situation where it is boom or bust. And if they bust, they just have absolutely nothing going forward in draft capital. Even if the picks weren't good, you could still use those picks to acquire another star in the NBA if you don't think you can draft a rising young prospect. That's just why I just think that for Dallas to win the championship, so many things have to go right for them with their health. And I don't think that, if AD goes down, I don't think Kyrie can carry them. If Kyrie goes down, I don't think AD can carry them. Whereas the good thing, at least about the Kyrie and Doncic partnership that we did see last year, is if one of them had it off, the other one was able to at least get it going and keep them through it, and sometimes single-handedly win games. And when they were both on, they were nearly unbeatable, okay? That's why that partnership ended up working so well, along with the ancillary pieces they had for the rest of the roster. I just do not think Dallas can win a championship. I think it has to be this year. I just think the longer it goes on with these players that Dallas have now, I think the less likely it is to win a championship. I think it has to be this year. I do want to switch over to the Lakers now, though. I'm interested, Tyson, to hear your thoughts because, to the naked eye, it's sort of like, hey, well, are the Lakers really trying to win now as well? Or is this more of a long-term trade? Now, the Lakers starting lineup, as of right now, I think a lot of us are expecting another trade from the Lakers. We'll talk about that a bit later, Tyson. So right now, Doncic, Reeves, LeBron, Rui, and Kleber is supposed to be maybe Jackson Hayes. But can you see this Lakers team in immediate contention, or is this more of a long-term thing with the Doncic trade?
Look, I definitely think it's a long-term game at this point, because if Lakers are really serious about getting big after, all the discussion that's been going around, they would have done something by now. But they still have one pick left that they didn't give away, so there's something could be on the table. But at the moment, I think this is purely just for the long-term standpoint of, LeBron having his little farewell tour, but you still got an insane superstar, huge name to carry the whole big market of LA. So in my eyes, definitely a long-term game, but we've seen glimpses of the Lakers without AD and still no solid big man playing somewhat decent. So they can hold their ground
yesterday
for a good time, but I don't think they can do it consistently over the rest of the season. So a bit iffy, but I believe it's more the long-term side of things for sure.
Well, I agree with that. It's obviously more of a long-term decision, but I disagree that I think they can contend this year. I think, we saw games without AD that the Lakers played very well, i.e. yesterday against the Knicks. And I think now having Luka Doncic on your team, the offense is I know you might have some issues with defense, but the offense is going to be so overwhelming for teams in cases. And yeah, it might not be, there might be a trade, another Lakers trade, but right now it might not be the best thing defensively. And if you're a Lakers fan, you're scared of who's running the 4 and the 5, and obviously there's a little bit of a hole there. But you also have Luka Doncic on your team now, and I think most teams with Luka Doncic on the team can contend, and I think the Lakers can still contend this year without Anthony Davis.
Yeah, because you still got LeBron and Doncic.
Yeah,
Keep in mind, you still have two of the best NBA players you've ever seen. So obviously nothing short of them. But it's going to have to be a little process to see what JJ Redick can do with this whole change of schemes, going from a defensive minded to you get crazy offensive power. So yeah, Rubes.
Well, before I start, I actually have a question for Tyson, because at the start of the season, he predicted the Lakers to win. If they don't change anything with their roster, are they still going to win the whole thing? Well, if they don't make any more trades.
It's
roster currently constructed.
No trades at all. I still think they could have a shot, but it's not going to be easy at all, with especially the whole defensive-minded recency from JJ Redick. Lakers are playing great defense recently, putting Christina lineup, Vando back, DFS, AD. So it's been a crazy defensive-minded team, and now that's just the whole core of that sort of just disappeared a bit.
Well, so let's transition there, Tyson. Who do you think the Lakers need to go out and get defensively that will allow them to win right now?
Look, obviously you're not going to get an all-star big straight off the bat. The market's very slim for that. But with the odd chances, the small things you have, I was, in my mind, some names that throw out there's Clint Capella, which could be a stretch, but Nick Claxton's pretty decent. But then also you could take a gamble at Rob Williams III, but then again, you're going down the injury path, another defensive big, but injury prone. So it's really tough, but I think those three could be the most realistic at this point for the Lakers.
What about Walker Kessler?
Capella's making $22 million. Claxton and Kessler. I think Kessler might be in line to get extended for another year. But insane. I think these would be nuts to get.
The Lakers already offered 2 first rounds and something else, and they weren't even interested in the slightest. So
they gave up 1 for Luka.
Yeah, and you give up 1 for so what's the go nowadays? You don't know the value.
We've seen the Jazz play hardball with their stuff. They try to get the most out. But we saw they got 4 first-round picks for Rudy. I don't think they will let Walker Kessler go that easily. We also just saw them in a 3-team trade with the Lakers, and I feel like if the Lakers really were going to make some ground on Walker Kessler, it probably would have happened in that trade, unless that would have jeopardized the other trade, but I doubt it. Walker Kessler's too much of a high upside young prospect. I don't think the Lakers can afford him.
Yeah,
I thought Clint Capella too. I don't know if they can afford him either, $22 million. Robert Williams at third, I think, is a potentially very high upside pick. But I think most realistically for the Lakers, I think you got to go to a lower team and you got to sort of just see who's willing to give what away. We saw Nick Richards get given away to the Suns.
Yeah,
Maybe can we see
great
Mark
pickup.
Williams, their other Hornet center? He's putting up some good numbers. Can we see him go to the Lakers for a cheap price? I think it needs to be someone probably older. I don't think they're going to be able to get a young big unless it is sort of someone like Time Lord who's on a bad team and who has that injury risks. Oscar, do you have any big man thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Tyson and I were talking yesterday about Nick Claxton. I think that would be a really good pickup. I don't think he's the greatest fit in Brooklyn right now. I don't think most players have are a great fit in Brooklyn right now, though. But yeah, as you said, I think it's either got to be a vet or it's got to be a guy. Yeah,
Dwight Howard?
That's a vet. That's a vet.
He's ready to go.
That's a vet.
No, but it's either gonna be a vet that you don't need to spend a lot on, or it's got to be a guy who's disgruntled on a worse team or a second option on a worse team and try and get him for cheap. I mean, what they have right now, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think you've got Luka Doncic. You're going to be very, very, you're offensively going to be fantastic, and I think they will be able to make it work for the rest of this year. I don't think they're going to just be horrible because we've seen the Lakers get guys in and then be good pretty quickly. So yeah, I think that if they don't get it big, I don't think it's the end of the world.
I think
was thinking maybe
the home run pick as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
but that's also just really hard for him to get. Anyway, sorry, Ruben.
Well, I was actually, if the budget's really low, like my Memphis guy, Steven Adams, could be a good shout as well. Just like as a vet.
Houston,
Yeah.
He is also at Houston. That is correct. Come on, Rubes.
No, he did play for Memphis.
He did play for Memphis.
I know that.
Yeah.
No, I mean
Okay,
he
good.
played for Memphis. Yeah, he played
Good.
for Memphis, and he was really good for
Okay.
us when we're in the 2 seed. So I think that could be another good option for the Lakers.
Yeah, I don't know. Even could you get someone like Andre Drummond, who at least can still get rebounds? Like, I don't know. He's maybe not the most active defender in his old age, but he still gets boards when he's been in
he
there.
has signed for very cheap as well recently. So
I know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Could we see? I'm really not sure what is out there for the Lakers. I think it needs to be someone they can take a chance on, and we'll see. But overall, I'm still a little bit shocked now. I think, Tyson, you texted me last night at like 10 o'clock and you're like, I'm still shocked. And I was like, yeah, I am too. I don't really know how to process this. And I think, like all trades, there could be some like outcome where the Mavericks' concerns about Doncic's conditioning was right. There were reports today that he apparently is 270 pounds right now, which would make him the 7th heaviest player in the NBA, if that's true. Like, maybe we could see some prophecy where the Mavericks win the championship and Luka, is injury prone for the rest of his career and can never stay fit. But I think, if anything, this could make Doncic more motivated, which could be very, very scary. We are going to switch gears to another trade. Oscar, your Bulls have been in the trade talks. How good for two of our Priceless Takes members who have teams making big trades today. DeAaron Fox and Zach LaVine, part of a multi-team trade, which sends Zach LaVine to the Kings and DeAaron Fox to the Spurs to pair with Wemby. Listen, trade details are as follows. The Spurs get DeAaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings get Zach LaVine, CD Sissoko, 3 first-round picks, 1 from Charlotte, 1 from San Antonio, 1 from Minnesota, as well as 3 second-round picks. And while the Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick, which I believe is a first-rounder. I hope it's a first-rounder.
I think it's the first rounder.
Otherwise, I might be a little bit more concerned. Oscar, do you think the Bulls let Zach LaVine go too easily?
No, because they've been talking about trading him for a very long time because of his massive contract that we took on. So I don't think that because the market for him was so bare, we tried to we tried to give him to the Lakers. They didn't want him. They didn't want to pick up the contract. We tried to give him, we shipped him around the league and no one's really wanted him. So I think this is just for the Bulls. This is just a salary dump. Get rid of this massive contract, restart again for in my tenure as a fan for like the third time, which sucks as a Bulls fan. But I think that the Bulls were willing to give up Zach LaVine for a bag of chips as they have just to get rid of that contract. I think Zach Collins doesn't have too much longer on his contract, maybe this year and next year. So I don't think they'll be re-signing him. And Kevin and Trey Jones aren't on much either. So it's just a massive salary dump, and it looks like we're gonna be back to rebuilding around our young guys again, which is what it is. I think.
Do you like this for the Spurs, Oscar? With now this new pairing, new young duo.
I think that it's a very even trade between what the Spurs and the Kings got. I think the Kings got a lot for what they gave up. I mean, 6 picks, and you're still getting Zach LaVine, who's a fantastic offensive player, and you're trading, your guy in DeAaron Fox, but obviously there's some issues in Sacramento right now because they've gotten rid of their coach. They don't really know what they're doing, and now they've traded DeAaron Fox. They've got Zach LaVine, who I said before it started are kind of similar players. You guys didn't really agree with me, but offensive guys that aren't the best playmakers. Obviously, one's a 1 and one's a 2, but offensively they're pretty similar. And you get 6 picks, which the Charlotte one is going to be fantastic this year, in my opinion, and the Spurs one could be good in 2027. So, I think the Kings, in my opinion, have won this. I think the Spurs get DeAaron Fox, who's going to obviously be guided by Chris Paul, and he's going to be wicked standing next to Wemby. So it's a fun trade. It's I think that it's pretty even. I don't know. I find it pretty even. I think the Kings got probably one in my opinion, but pretty even in my point of view.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty even, but there's upsides for both teams. Like you look at it, like Spurs, you've just paired another great young guard to go with Victor for however the years go on, but it's also like CP3's there to, give him the knowledge. Like you got one of the best point guards of all time, helping out another young point guard, and obviously we all know about the Spurs coaching staff and whatnot. Like that's just you're set up for success there. So that's a great long-term success, just development wise. I think it's perfect. And
you
also
got Stephon Castle as well. He's playing well.
Yeah, you got
another young guy.
Tons of young guys, and but just for the Kings, like you got quite a few picks. You got Zach, who's played with DeMar before. We've seen it. But also, I guess the downside thing is like we've seen DeMar and LaVine play before and haven't really got anything, really.
That's why I don't understand this trade from Sacramento's perspective. I think it even speaks to what Oscar said. I think with the amount of draft compensation they got, I think it is sort of leaning to the salary dump sort of avenue where they probably just get rid of LaVine. Because we've seen the duo before. They traded DeMar to he signed with the Kings to get away from Zach LaVine. Why would the Kings want to pick that up? I think it's a home run trade for the Spurs. I think the Spurs, particularly with the development of my rookie of the year, Stephon Castle, I think that backcourt could be something special in years to come with the guidance of Chris Paul still being there. And then obviously with the generational talent that Wemby is. So I think that's also a good pick for my surprise team of the year. I think maybe it won't be as much of a surprise anymore if they do good now that they traded for DeAaron Fox. But I think the Spurs have set themselves up for the future so incredibly well. Because even if DeAaron Fox, I don't think could be a 1 on a championship team. And if Castle develops the way that I think he's going to develop, DeAaron Fox might even be the 2A or the 3, which I think is a role that he can suit in. I think that's a perfect role for him because we've seen him have some good playoff games. And he's still young. He's still got a lot of time to go. This Spurs team is young. They have still veteran leadership. They've got Harrison Barnes on the roster too, who's had championship experience. Home run trade for Spurs. Ruben, what are your thoughts?
I agree with you, Luca. I think Spurs are the biggest winner out of this because, like you said, DeAaron Fox is in his prime at 27, still got another 5 or 6 years easily in the NBA, and then Wemby's young, and they've still got all that young core. The Kings, I think it's a little dumb because LaVine's not a scrub. He's a decent player. They weren't going to compete. The picks are good for the future as well. At least they get something for their future. The Bulls, it's not great, but I don't know. For the Kings, they were my surprise team of the season, but I think after the what happened with the coach and everything, I think it went pear shaped, and I think this trade was necessary, especially because it seemed like De'Aaron Fox wanted out at this point.
Yeah, I don't think Zach LaVine's gonna. I know we've seen it at the Bulls before. That team with some good pieces around him, I don't think it's going to be horrible. I think they're still going to be. The Kings are still going to be there. They're still going to be, 5, 6 seed maybe, and I don't mind it for the Kings. They got a crap ton of draft capital now, and they've got Zach LaVine who can play the one. We've seen him play the one for the Bulls. He can play the two, obviously. He's a very good offensive player. I'd like to see how it works and what they can do differently in the Kings with DeMar and Zach.
Well, I think what makes most sense to me if I'm the Kings is I'm getting rid of DeMar, I'm drafting someone, or I'm taking those picks into someone else, and I'd rather build around a team with LaVine and Sabonis than with DeMar. I think DeMar, in my opinion, is going to find himself as the old man out because he's the old one who, is on the very, very back end of his prime, whereas we still could have a lot of good years around Zach LaVine, and Sabonis is just an absolute machine. So I don't think it's over for the Kings, but I think as presently constructed, I don't think their roster is going anywhere.
Well, I think a big part of it's to do with the coach as well. I'm still now shocked about the dismissal and everything because the Kings went from nothing to this amazing team, and I think it had a lot to do with Mike Brown as the coach.
Well, yeah, you just look how the players developed under him, and Sabonis came in and he was a freak, and De'Aaron Fox obviously liked Mike Brown quite a bit, and that's probably why he was gone. He probably wanted out, as you said, Rubes.
Well, the development of Keegan Murray as well. He's become a solid starter for the Kings.
Again, that's another I mean, him and DeMar are very different players, but you still have offense on that team, even without DeMar. And the Kings are 24-24 this season. You put it down to coaching, you put it down to GM, player personnel, player happiness, like a lot of things, but something needed to change. Do you see a scenario, Tyson, where the Kings could just completely just blow it up and get rid of Sabonis, dump LaVine's contract, and just start again?
Not clearly, no. I don't particularly see that happening. Like you said, I think DeMar would be the first thing on their mind to say, hey, like we've just got Zach. We've seen them not really work out together. Let's use him while he's still, was he 35? He can still be productive, but like, let's get him, shipped around. What can we get? Like, what can we get for him? Because you've got amazing pieces. Malik Monk's crazy, Zach LaVine, Sabonis, Chris Murray. You get a good 3-and-D wing. I think that's a great team to begin with.
Well, I don't even know if Malik Monk's going to be happy anymore because DeAaron Fox is his college roommate. Who even knows if that's, that could have rubbed Malik Monk the wrong way. You never really know what these types of trades can do. Ruben, Oscar, any final thoughts before we move on to our final topic?
I don't think in the immediate future they'll blow it up, but maybe in a couple of years' time, if once Sabonis gets a bit older, the team starts to age a bit, they might do a bit of a rebuild. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I think if anyone's to go, it's DeMar DeRozan to go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a team to watch for the I think next year or so and see what they do. They might keep it together. They might blow it up. They might just want to trade DeMar or even trade Zach again. So, I think it'll be an interesting team to watch.
Yeah, listen, another interesting team that we're going to talk about. My team, ironically, I've become the Heat guy on this show. So we're going to switch gears to Miami. Going to do a bit of rapid fire here because we are slowly running out of time. Jimmy Butler, still not traded. I personally don't think he will be traded. I think you guys think differently. I know at least one of you does. But the trade deadline is quickly approaching. It's over in 4 days. So it is getting very, very dicey. for Jimmy Butler. Apparently, latest news, he was nearly headed to the Warriors, but Jimmy Butler seems to only want to sign an extension in Phoenix and clearly nowhere else in the NBA. So I feel like we've kind of seen that rabbit walk the road in Phoenix with, an old player like going and signing a new deal and like being with the Suns and, Phoenix crashing out of the playoffs. Oscar, you used to be the Jimmy Butler guy before I took that crown from you because, heat culture. What are your thoughts on Jimmy Butler? What do you think's going to happen? Do you think Miami can still contend?
Jimmy's always been a guy that's close to my heart just because he's always been that guy who sacrifices for his team, who puts his body on the line, who does all that. Right now, his ego is through the roof. He thinks he's worth way much more than he is. He wants to leave Miami, but doesn't want to go anywhere but Phoenix, but he wants out of Miami. So, Miami are actively looking for a trade for you. They've given you spots where you should go, and they should just trade him. But now you've got him. I don't want to go here. I don't want to go here. I don't want to go here. Well, where does he want to go? There's only 30 teams in the league, and you don't want to be in Miami. You don't want to be in the cold in Minnesota or anything like that.
The Lakers.
Oh no.
And you don't want to sign extensions to so I don't think he's going to get traded anymore just because of how pansy he's being about this whole process and how much of a diva he's being to Miami, who he's been to the finals twice with, and they've been good to him. They've built a team around him. They've made him their star guy, and now he's being a little drama queen about it, and he doesn't want to go anywhere, but he wants out. So he should, I don't know. I love him. I love him to bits, but he's being a drama queen.
Look, I love Jimmy Butler, but after he turned down Memphis, I'm absolutely fuming with him because I would love him at Memphis right now. I think he's exactly what we need, but I don't think he's turned us down. I think, look, it seems pretty hard for him to get a trade considering he only wants Phoenix, but I think the situation has become so bad now that Miami just gonna maybe have to force a trade with Phoenix because I don't see anything else happening really. I think he could fit in well with Minnesota, but I don't think he'd want to go back there, especially in the cold and everything. So I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was traded by the end of the deadline.
Yeah, well, great player. I love the guy, but he's doing too much. I don't know what he thinks he is now. Maybe 30 games time when it's playoff time. Yeah, you can get your say.
That's what I mean. That's what 2 finals appearances does to you.
Yeah.
You're the main man on that team. That inflates that ego.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's always had a crazy ego to begin with. But at the moment, you're having a pretty mid-season. I don't think you get that sort of say at the moment. Be content with what you have.
Jimmy Butler, I think, Tyson, I don't know if you guys agree with me. I think he's used to getting what he wants.
For sure.
And unfortunately, Miami's an organization that historically has played hardball with their players. If I'm Pat Riley, I would rather just tell Jimmy Butler, if you're not playing for us, you're not playing at all. And he can sit out the rest of the season. And I think that's the way that Miami's going to go because that's what I would have no problem with them doing that. And then, you put Jimmy in a situation, maybe come back, maybe let's go to a third finals and Luka can be right. And then after that, you can go and we can find you a trade partner after you've done that for us. So I just think it's very selfish what Jimmy's doing. It's very James Harden-esque, in my opinion. And I just don't like the way that those things turn out. Guys, we do have to go, but I'm going to get final 1-minute segment here. Okay, I'm going to start with Tyson, then Ruben, then Oscar. You can finish. One player that you think is going to be on the trading block when it comes to the end of deadline. Is there someone who you think is about to get traded?
Definitely Vucevic. He's going to get shipped really quick, really soon. I think I just saw a report before he's ready to go. So I think he's gone. I think he's gone. There's no way you keep him Booch around for a rebuild. So that's one off the top of my head.
I'm going to go very neat. I'm going to go very boring. I'm going to say Clint Capella.
Oscar?
I think we just talked about it. I think that Miami will force a trade force something, just get rid of him. I don't think they want to deal with him anymore. And Jimmy will be traded by the deadline.
Yeah. For me, I think it's Brad Beal. I think his time might
Yep.
be up in Phoenix. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a part of the Jimmy trade. I wouldn't be surprised if he got sent somewhere else and, the whole Jimmy to Phoenix thing just doesn't work out like I think. It won't work out. I think Brad Beal, I think there's a lot of internal things going on in Phoenix with that we're definitely not hearing about right now because it's like very like Carmelo Anthony-esque, like going to the bench, back end of your prime. You're not that same guy you used to be. Ego struggles. Carmelo, we saw what happened. He went to Houston. He went to OKC. He went to all those teams. I think Brad Beal is on that same trajectory. But guys, that is all we have time for this emergency episode edition of Priceless Takes. I liked having you guys on today and for the spontaneity in which we did this episode, and I think it was really good. So thanks for coming, panel.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So make sure to keep following us on our social media. We've started doing some more live videos. We had one yesterday in reaction of a trade. I posted one a few weeks ago with NFL content. So stay tuned for that. Also stay tuned for our Super Bowl predictions episode, which will be coming out later this week. I'll be back with Chris on the show, taking you through all things NFL and giving you our official predictions for Chiefs vs. Eagles round 2. But that is all for Priceless Takes episode 71. I'm your host, Luka Price, and we'll see you next time.